Father Bill. Just this week in current events, in a Monday Night Football game, Damar Hamlin, top of the world playing football as a safety with the Buffalo Bills. And then in an instant, his life completely changed. And we still don't know what the status of his life is going to be. It's very sad. Much like Father Bill, he was doing something that he enjoyed. And you'll hear exactly what happened through the stories today. And his life changed instantly. I think what the important thing is what Father Bill did after that, which is so life-changing, and still he's life-changing today. So with that, we have many guests here. Hopefully you're going to learn, stay engaged with the conversations today, and hopefully you'll learn something about Father Bill. With that, I'm going to introduce our MC, Mrs. Grace Kane, one of our teachers here at Bonner Prendy. Ms. Kane.
Good morning, Bonner and Prendy. It's good to see you. I also would like to say good morning to our special guests and thank you so much for being here and for being able to tell our student body the meaning of Father Atkinson's role here at Bonner and Prendy. He was an amazing person. He was the heart and soul of the school. And I think even though a lot of you, or maybe all of you, have seen the documentary that has been put together, that certainly shows you one aspect of Father Atkinson. But the people that we've invited here today know Father Atkinson in a more special way. And I think because of his birthday, and Dr. Cook and I planned this, we wanted to make sure that you, because you are students at Bonner and Prendy, that you understand who he is. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you the person who has known Father his whole life, and that is his sister, Mrs. Joan Mullen. So please, students, welcome Mrs. Mullen to talk about her brother.
I didn't know I was first. Sorry. I am the oldest sister of Bill. And if Bill were here, he would say, and she's the only one that didn't go to Bonner Prendy. I missed it by a year. When I graduated from eighth grade, they told us in September that we would be coming to the new Prendergast school, and we were excited, but it wasn't quite finished in June. So we were the last class from the suburbs to go to West Catholic. So that's the reason, none other. Good morning, everybody. I had the opportunity to speak at Bonner and Prendy a few years ago, and it's good to be back. A few months ago, I came here to interview Grace Kane, and we got to talking, of course, women talk, and she learned a lot about Bill she didn't know, and I learned a lot about him from her. So today I'm not going to talk about Bill and his road to sainthood, but more I'm just going to tell you a little story about Bill and his personality traits, things like that. So when Bill had his accident, all that family knew was that Bill was on a toboggan They crashed. He hit a tree, severed his spine, and broke his back. And that's all we ever knew for like 40 years. We also knew that Ted Glessner was on the sled. The reason that's all we knew is because Bill would never talk about the accident when you asked him. Never. And we didn't push him. He just would slough it off or just be quiet. And because we let it go because we were so happy just to have Bill with us. All we knew was Ted Glessner, a seminarian friend, witnessed it. And he would never talk about it either. The reason I know that is I can't tell you how many times in those 40-some years I called Ted, because Ted lived in Maine. Begged him to come down, but he just couldn't do it. So we let that go. But Bill and Ted were very good friends and stayed friends even after Ted left seminary. By 1973, Bill was looking forward to his ordination. Ted was married, living in Maine, and kept in touch regularly. Through those years, the family questioned Bill about the accident, but with no success, over and over. Over the years, I would ask him, and he was mute. It wasn't until Bill died in 2006 that I took it upon myself to find out what really happened. I thought it was time. So I called Ted, and I guess I gave him a piece of my mind. And I politely told Ted it was too long. We wanted to know exactly what happened on that hill. And he said he would come down to Philadelphia and meet with her family, which he did. So to get back to the beginning of the story with Ted and Bill, Ted was one of 40 candidates that entered seminary with Bill in September of 1964. They met at a first gathering at Villanova and became great friends over the next decades. Ted was from Buffalo. He arrived at Villanova University totally naive, not knowing anybody, where Bill knew quite a few guys because he went to school, they all went to Bonner. So Bill had the edge on him. But their friendship flourished on their mutual love of sports. The novice master at that time was Father Keffer, who I understand from Bill was very, very strict and kept the boys in line. Bill was easy to be with. Those of you who know him, it's true. He got along with everyone, never complained, and he was loaded with patience. He was quiet and a listener, something that we were all taught at home. Now, the novitiate year, if you don't know, is a very difficult year. It's a silent year, no visitors, no going home, no weekends off, no holidays. And it's a tough schedule. Every day, you're up at 6 a.m. You don't get a knock on the door saying, breakfast is ready. No, that doesn't happen. You don't hear any bells go off. It's more a whispered in Latin time to get up. And then the student answers in Latin. So everything was in Latin. After they had minutes to get changed and run down to chapel for divine office or liturgy of the hours, a series of prayers and psalms. Bill struggled with that, which isn't surprising because even as an older boy, when they said the prayers in Latin, Bill he never said anything in Latin after Confiteor Deo. Everything was mumbled. That was Bill. After that, everybody had a chore to do. Well, that day, that special day, it had snowed all night, the night before. Lots of snow. And their chore that day for Ted and Bill was to shovel the snow from the convent to the seminary so the nuns could get the boys breakfast. After that, they had breakfast, and that's when they found out that they had a holiday. Now, you have to picture these boys. It's February. They've been there since September. No days off. No going home. And now these 19-year-olds know they have a holiday. And they are so excited. They are jumping for joy. And Ted and Bill already had the day planned to go tobogganing. And that is as much as we knew for all those years with Bill. Then on Friday, September 16th, 2016, 10 years since Bill's death and 50-some years later after the accident, this is what we found. I want you to picture the whole scene now. Ted and Bill find out they have a free day. There's no freebies in novitiate year, so they are beyond themselves with excitement. 19-year-olds, ready to do, they're ready to do anything. Seek a venture, at least I know Bill did. They go, retrieve a toboggan, and take a couple of sample runs and got nowhere because they needed more weight. The snow was fluffy and dry, and they got nowhere. So they had to enlist some volunteers to help them out. And these two angels came along, two boys I didn't know, in a seminary. And they came to their rescue. The first shock was that it had snowed to them. The next gift they got were these two guys, John McHale and Tom Burke, the rescuers. John McHale's nickname was Quint from the TV show McHale's Navy. He was big and stout, and that's what they needed. They needed weight. We're going to get down this mountain, and you're going to help us. Tom Burke hailed from San Diego. His first time on the East Coast, and he never saw snow. They jumped on the toboggan, all four of them. Bill first, Quint McHale second, Ted Glessner third, and Tom Burke in the back. That's a fact. We never knew four were on the sled. We only knew that Ted and Bill at that point were. So that was another learning moment. It happened same day that priests drove up from Bonner to visit the novitiate kids. And after they did, they were going skiing with some of the elder seminarians. They had come in a station wagon. That's immaterial right now, but it's very important later. Off they went to ski. But Father Tomasula stayed behind. He was a newly ordained priest, and he just wanted to stay with the boys to make sure they were all right. Meanwhile, four boys kept pushing to get down, and then when they pushed, they slipped. The slippery it came. They got back at the top and didn't notice the snow had packed down. The hill was steep. At least the first 1/2 mile was. Then the trail turned slightly right. So you had a really quick turn and then straighten yourself out to a steep run over a driveway, which ended at the railroad tracks. There were no trees on the trail. Ted continues telling us that they started down the hill and picked up speed, moving at a faster than fast pace. The toboggan hit a snow patch where a large pile of snow had concentrated. The toboggan hit the pile, tossing snow in their faces. They couldn't see anything for a while and had very little sense of direction. They built a jump at the bottom of the hill, and hitting it was the ride's thrill to them. They hit it at a high speed, and the toboggan went AWOL in the air. Because they could not see clearly, they had veered off course and hit a tree. That was freaky to them. They didn't expect that at all. There were no trees, only one, off the path and far right. The snow on their faces made them lose control. Bill took the force, but to the boys, Bill was invincible. He was such a great athlete. They weren't worried about anything happening to them. Burke rolled off the back, Ted to the side, and Quint lay there catching his breath. They all were laughing at the thrill of the moment. Now, yeah, I love this picture. These are vivacious 19-year-olds who have been sequestered. They get up and they have all this snow, all this play. Then they find out they have a holiday. They get this toboggan and they're flying. They're in heaven. They are absolutely out of this world. Until they turn and see Bill, who was still in the toboggan, enveloped in the curled front of the toboggan. Not moving. He was conscious, but not able to move. And three boys knew they had to do something. They were powerless as what to do first. But now somehow, how serious was it? They're at the bottom of a hill and they have to do something. Now, they were just laughing and screaming and wiping the snow off of them and talking about this thrilling ride and going up and coming down. And now they turn and there's no happiness anymore, but they don't know what to do. There's nobody there. So what happens first is Burke runs up the hill for help. The toboggan was shattered that Bill was on. So Ted they got Bill from the front of the toboggan, and his breathing was forced. There was, in those days, there was no 911, medevacs, EMTs, cell phones. This storm had closed all the roads. The boys had to act. When Burke got to the top, he went and found Father Tomasula. And when Father Tomasula reacted, he was a basket case. He's a brand new priest. He's got these four boys at the bottom of it. One is really hurt. And what do we do first? So he backs the station wagon. Thank God the keys were left while the others went skiing. Ted jumped in the back. Three boys, Father Tomasula and Art Chappell, took Bill to the hospital. While Ted was in the back with Bill, and Bill's on his toboggan, his hand falls off of his chest. And it was at that point that Art knew it's really bad, because Bill didn't put his arm back on. So he lifted Bill's arm and put it back on his chest. The reason Ted could never talk about this, or Bill, is abundantly clear once you hear the whole story. What was going through their mind is, did I further injure him lifting him? For years, Ted wondered if he made the situation worse. Did their actions alter the course of Bill's life? Even today, Ted is sure they may have injured him further. But he adds, if we didn't, he would have died right there in the snow. Ted will tell you, even today, that each of us felt some guilt from then on. Now, when Ted is telling this story, we're like aghast. What happened to the reason it's only Ted that I'm talking about is because John McHale felt, since he was behind Bill, that his weight and his heft caused the injury. And he kept those thoughts until his death in his young 40s. Tom Burke had, he was a frail guy and couldn't take too much, aggravation or anything. And he had a very, very sad life and a very, very sad death. So that's why Ted is always mentioned with Bill, because they're the two that are still alive. Now, with all that guilt, all I want to leave you with is that Ted Glessner, John McHale, and Tom Burke were angels. And every time I think of them, I thank God that I met 3 angels. Thanks.
Thank you, Joan, for sharing that story with us. I'd never heard that before. Joan shared it with me a few months ago. And I thought it was important that you realize what happened to Father Atkinson that day. And that accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. So he couldn't use any of his limbs, arms or legs, and left him in a position to figure out what he would do with the rest of his life. And I'd like you to now welcome a good friend of ours, Father and mine, who got to know Father as a teacher here. And she is here to speak to us today. And I'd like you to welcome Mrs. Katie Garwood.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you guys for letting me be here today. So I'm going to see if I can be better than your president here. Hello, Bonner and Prendy. You did better. It's good morning. You got to say good morning. If I think back about 30 years ago, I was a sophomore at Prendy. And so it wasn't this auditorium, it was that auditorium, much bigger and way warmer because we had great loud heating systems on the right and left. And when I heard on a Wednesday, it was a bell 3, I get my sweater ready because I knew I was going to go sleep in a chair. And so for the 10% of you that are asleep, I'm there with you. Totally get it. Did it 30 years ago. I then went on to Drexel University, where I got a couple of degrees. And in 1999, I came home and taught here at Monsignor Bonner for 6.5 years. And so every Wednesday, when it was a bell 3, I would have to put on some armor because I'd have to drag the boys down here and make sure they were going to behave and sit the one next to me that was most likely to throw things at the speaker. So I've spent quite a few assembly days here on a Wednesday. The reason I'm telling you the Bonner part is because when I got here in 99, I instantly became very good friends. I would say best friends with Father Atkinson, but he had a lot of best friends. He was the moderator of the football team, which you guys have heard. He ran JUG, which he did amazingly well. But we also went to every home basketball game, football game, lacrosse game, soccer game. I took him to a bowling match, but it wasn't wheelchair friendly, so we couldn't get up the stairs. McDade Bowl, they got to work on that. We went to the hockey games. We went to every play. We went to every dance. He did even more than I did, but he was the life of Bonner. He was here every minute of every day and spent all his time outside doing whatever he could with the students. So if it were today and he and I were still here, you would know Father Atkinson, just because he was the life force here. But it wasn't the regular day-to-day kids or the basketball kids or the soccer kids that Father really touched. That wasn't what he did. What he did was he found the students who were struggling, students who had really bad things going on at home. There was Stephen B. He was from Philly, and he couldn't wear his Bonner uniform in his neighborhood. So every day to get to Bonner, he wore baggy jeans over his clothes and a hoodie so that he wouldn't be frontin'. And he would always be late because he'd have to change his outfit when he'd go to homeroom. And there was Carmine, whose uncle wanted him to sell drugs at Bonner because his mom was addicted and he was trying to find a way to pay rent. And there was Kevin, whose dad had passed away, and his mom really just couldn't be bothered with getting him to school every day. And there were the kids who had grown 6 inches over the summer, but because their dad wasn't working, they couldn't get a new uniform, and they'd be stretching that Bonner sweater a little tight, maybe not have shoes that fit that well. Those were the kids that Father watched out for. He found a spot for Stephen to change every day and a place for him to keep his Bonner clothes and his street clothes so that he never got in trouble anymore when he came into school before he got to homeroom, didn't have to go to jug anymore. He got Carmine to talk to somebody at school and found a place to help with his mom and some of his rent. Somehow I ended up picking up Kevin every day because I passed his house on my way to Bonner, and just having someone outside his house with a car made him realize that someone wanted him up in the morning, and then father would have breakfast waiting here for him. And he'd start a clothes closet for all the kids who were struggling with making sure they had the right uniform so that that wasn't the stressor that they had when they were at school. And instead, they could go to class every day and be like everyone else. That's what father was here at Bonner. And so what I'm here for today is I need you to know that if you're sleeping right now, it's okay, because your life is good and you're going to go on to your first period, and hopefully we'll talk long enough that it's 10 minutes later and first period will be much shorter. Okay. But if you're struggling, if there's something in your life that really upset you this morning, if you're not sure what it's going to be like when you get home today, if there's something that gives you fear or angst or anxiety or loneliness, he is here. This is where he wanted to be. He wanted to be in this building, and you are the students that he wanted to help. And so instead of a prayer card, if you just close your eyes and say, hey, Father, this is the struggle I'm going through. And if you got a minute, could you help me? He will. He loved teenagers and he loved making their life so that they could be teenagers. Okay, you can't say I want $1 million in a house in Malibu, because he doesn't care if that's what you want. And what you want isn't what he'll help you with. He'll help you with what you need. And so I'm just here today to let you know that there is a spirit, there is a man in this building that you may not be able to see, but that will intercede for you if there is anything that is truly troubling you in your life. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Katie. The next person I'd like to introduce to you students is a man that I met the same day that I met Father Atkinson when I started here at Bonner and Prendy. And he was a great influence on me, was a mentor to me, and Father Atkinson knew him well and cared about him. And I'd like to introduce to you today, Mr. Ralph Saladonio.
Good morning. I say this often, and it's true. I'm probably one of the luckiest people that was ever born. I had great parents. I have a wonderful wife, 62 years, terrific children, grandchildren. And I was a teenager, an older teenager, maybe 19. And the priest at St. Alice's comes up to me and says, Ralph, would you do me a favor? Would you coach the basketball and baseball teams? So I looked at him as if to say, well, me? Why me? And he said, we can't find anybody that'll do it. I said, well, I'll try, but I don't know that I would do very well here. So I get the boys together for the basketball, and I don't know them that well. They're in 7th and 8th grade. And St. Alice was the name of the parish, and it was a small parish. They never won anything big, never championship in the leagues. So we went out and practiced, and we got together, and we found that we weren't that good. We lost a lot of games. But in doing it, I noticed that the other team's best player, if I put Bill Atkinson on that player, that player had a tough time scoring. That doesn't mean we won the game, and it doesn't mean that Bill scored a lot of points. He didn't. But we were in the game because he was defending against the best player on the other team. In baseball, he was a second baseman. And in the beginning, he had trouble knocking down ground balls. So we just kept hitting ground balls to him. If you missed him, you had to go chase him. Well, he wasn't dumb, so he said, wait a minute. So he stopped the balls with his body. He knocked them down, and then we wasn't going chasing them. And ultimately, with the baseball team, when they were in eighth grade, they did win the Delaware County Championship. And Bill was an integral part of that team. And he never forgot that all his life. He always, there was good memories for him. So in that period of time, my father it was in partnership with a printing and advertising company, and it assumed that I was going to go into that also. And I said to him, I'd like to try teaching for a year to see if I would be any good at it. And I wound up here for 42 years at Bonner. And I never regretted a minute of it. I loved it. The boys, and it's amazing that so many of the boys that I taught have become friends. Call me for golf, or I see them with a guy, I see them around, and they always make a point of coming up and saying hello. It was a great experience teaching here at Bonner, but for over 25 of those years, Father Atkinson was here as a teacher and a friend. When I would do the scheduling for the school, and at times I make a mistake. Two classes in the same room at the same time didn't work. So I'd have to change the schedule around a little bit, and I would need somebody to do me a favor and take an 8th period or something like that. And Bill, when I'd go to Bill, I say, Bill, can you do me a favor? And without doubt, he'd always take it, and he'd look up with a smile. And my experience over all those years with him here was he never, ever complained. He'll always do the extra if it needed to be done. And just picture this. He's in a wheelchair. God at least let him be able to move his arm a little bit so that he could maneuver that wheelchair around with the electric wheelchair. But if he wanted to go up on the elevator, he certainly couldn't go over and push a button or put a key in the elevator. So he'd sit outside the elevator and wait for somebody to come by. Patience. Somebody come by, they'd have to put him on the elevator and they'd go up with him, and then he'd get off and go to the class if he was teaching. In the classroom, he couldn't write on the blackboard. The students had to write on the blackboard for him, and he had to control the class. And very difficult to do that when you can't get up and walk around. When Bill decided to become a priest, he was given that option. He didn't have to be a priest. He had the awful accident, and he opted to continue. And when he became a priest, he certainly could have opted for a less strenuous job than teaching. Teaching, well, your teachers will tell you, it's not the easiest job in the world. It's active, you got to be very active. And Bill opted to do that, to take that position, to take that route. And well, you're here, you're praying for it, you're praying to him and praying with him. And he earned it all. He did a wonderful job as a teacher and as a person and as a priest. And I was, like I said, I've been lucky in life. I was lucky there for having Bill as a friend and as a teacher at the same time I was here. And thank God for that. Thank God for Father Atkinson. Good luck, fellas and girls.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you for being such a wonderful part of the Bonner history. The next person doesn't need an introduction. She is someone that you see every day here. And we would like to, we want to talk to you about the prayer that you say every day at 7th period. That prayer, even though sometimes you're busy doing other things when you're starting class, I'd like you to really think about that prayer. And especially when you listen to Mrs. Anne Marie Delsomore today. Mrs. Delsomore.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have everybody sit up for a moment. I know we're kind of getting a little, tired here, sitting here, so if we could just sit up. So I do have an important message that I know that Father Bill would want me to share with all of you today. It was in May of 2019 that my life would change and I would be faced with the biggest challenge of my life thus far. I had found a spot on my back that I thought needed to be checked out by my dermatologist. I immediately knew by the look on her face that what she saw did not look good, and I was immediately sent to Jefferson Hospital to have it removed and biopsied. During my surgery, they found that my cancer was in my lymph nodes, and I was diagnosed with stage 3A melanoma in June of 2019. I immediately began immunotherapy treatment, which is a form of chemotherapy, every month down at Jefferson Hospital. At that time, my daughters were only 9 and 4 years of age. I was scared, but I don't really think the severity of the diagnosis had fully sunk in for me at that time. I went about my treatment and continued on with my life as though nothing had really happened. Only my immediate family was aware of my diagnosis, as well as a few members of the Bonner and Prendy administration at that time. In March of 2020, they learned that my cancer had spread back to my lymph nodes, and I had to have surgery again right before the COVID shutdown. It was now stage 3C melanoma, and because of the spread and recurrence of the cancer in the lymph nodes, I was also started on radiation as well as hydrotherapy treatment in July of 2020. These two rigorous treatments were to help prevent the cancer from returning to those lymph nodes. Those treatments worked for a short while, but after a PET scan in September of 2020 was when my world would come crashing down around me. The cancer had metastasized and had spread to my organs, my kidneys, the bone in my left leg, a large lymph node around the original spot on my back, and also in my spleen. I found all of this out while sitting at my office desk at school, and I was completely devastated. I was frozen. The first thing that came to my mind were my 2 little girls, Rachel and Michaela, and I immediately broke down and into tears in my office. Mr. Stewart, Mrs. Fitty, Mr. Stramberg, and Father Zaleski had all come to be by my side as I cried and cried, asking, how can God put me through one more thing? I can't take any more. I can't handle this, and I can't leave these little girls behind. That's all I could think and feel. At that moment, Father gave me healing of the sick and assured me that prayer would get me through this. That's when he began the novena to Father Bill Atkinson at school. It was at that time that Father Bill had begun his journey to sainthood, and I was already praying to him when I had received my diagnosis. At that moment, I had to let go and let God. And every day for an entire school year, the students, faculty, and staff of Bonner and Prendy prayed to Father Bill Atkinson during 7th period prayer and asked for him to intercede for me. I was in grade school when my dad first introduced me to Father Bill Atkinson, and I'm not lying when I say, when you were in his presence, you just knew there was something different about and special about that man. The stories you hear about Father Atkinson will prove that. So I felt comfort in praying to Father Bill every day to help me through this nightmare. This wasn't God's fault, but just like Father Bill had in his life, this was my cross to carry. And I was going to carry it with dignity, strength, and faith, just like Father Bill did. My treatment was doubled, and it ended up making me extremely ill, affecting my liver and putting me in the hospital. The next few weeks were certainly not easy, and my health continued to worsen. I continued to pray and put all of my trust in a man that we all know was a saint here on earth. And when my oncologist saw my December PET scan results, she cried. She said she had never seen a PET scan go from bad to good the way mine did in only 3 months' time. More than 90% of the cancer was gone, leaving only a small spot on my spleen. We continued to pray to Father Bill, and in November of 2021, my next PET scan was clear. The cancer was gone. It was him. It was Father Bill. I had prayed and talked to Father Bill every day, asking him not to allow this disease to take me from my little girls. I told him how much they needed me here on earth and how my work here on earth was not nearly complete. I promised Father Bill, if he interceded for me, I would spread his message and tell everyone of the power of prayer. And that's why I am here today. Whether you believe it or not, prayer works. Prayer is real. Prayer is defined as a solemn request or help or expression of thanks addressed to God. Intercession is the action of intervening on behalf of another. And because of prayer, I firmly believe that Father Bill Atkinson intervened for me and helped to heal me of my disease. Prayer is also giving our attention to God in a two-way spiritual relationship where we not only talk to God, but we listen to him. It can be compared to a child's conversation with their father, asking for something they need or asking for advice or guidance. Father Bill has taught me to do this every day. Many people have come up to me since I have let my story out to pray to Father Bill for someone they love who is sick, which I never hesitate to do. However, I often ask, why don't you pray to him? And usually the response is, oh, well, you're clearly closer to him, so he'll listen to you more than me. And I disagree. Father listens to everyone, and he wants all of you to pray. Prayer is not a formality. It's not something you are supposed to do because you are told to do it. It is not something you should be afraid of. It should be something that makes you feel happy, comforted, and connected. And that is what I believe Father Bill's message is that he wants me to share to all of you here today. When I have a chance, I try to join in with Lily Walker, who is up on the stage today, when she opens up and shares her daily prayer with everyone on Zoom. I am always taken aback and fascinated by her strength and faith. But through Lily, I see Father Bill's message of prayer. Her dedication to prayer is truly inspiring, and I admire her for that. Father Bill wants us to pray. He wants us to talk to him. He wants us to talk to God, not just when we need something, but every day. Or just any moment we feel the need to communicate with God. This is how we build our relationship with God. This is what Father Bill wants from us. On his heavenly birthday, I challenge all of you to pray at some point today. Begin that connection with God. It doesn't have to be a question or a request. It can be in thanksgiving for something you have, or just simply a conversation. I pray to Father Bill every night, and I talk to him every day, and it comforts me. If you are someone who doesn't believe in prayer or goes back and forth with your faith, I am here today, standing on this stage as living proof that prayer works. If you had seen me at any point during that time, during that year I was sick, you would know that I definitely went through it. From feeling sick every day, having severe allergic reactions to medication, to having severe arthritis and being unable to walk at times, losing 75% of my hair, and that's only some of it. My cousin Brooke Dossamore once said about my Uncle Mike when he died of cancer at the young age of 52, that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. I kept running that saying over and over in my head, and I remembered how Father Atkinson lived his life to the fullest every day, and how strong he was in his faith, living as the first paraplegic priest that once resided on our beloved school's campus here at Bonner and Prendy. If you are not someone that prays regularly, now is the time to start. There is always someone up there listening. Maybe start with talking to Father Bill, who will one day become a saint. I know it in my heart. And even if my miracle isn't the one that helps him to become a saint, it doesn't matter. Because I know that I am here today because of that holy man that once lived and taught on this campus. A special thank you to all the Bonner and Prendy faculty, staff, and students, and all of those who prayed for me and continue to pray for me. Your prayers were answered. I am living proof. And I truly believe that because of Father Bill Atkinson, my story continues. Happy heavenly birthday, Father Bill, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson-Moore. Students, Ms. Dawson-Moore mentioned someone in her speech that I would like to introduce to you now. I met Lily Walker and her mom through Father Atkinson. I found out that someone in Havertown was praying fervently to Father Atkinson. And because I know Father and because he was my friend and I cared so much about him, I wanted to meet Lily. And I was so grateful that I did. And I'm so glad that she's here today to speak to you. So please welcome Lily Walker and her mom, Mrs. Megan Walker.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lily Walker. I am a senior at Haverford High School, and I got to know Father Bill after I was diagnosed with cancer in 2019. Right after I was diagnosed, we knew praying would help me, so we decided to pray to Father Bill and seek his intercession.
Hi, everyone. I am Lily's mom, Megan Walker. And I just wanted to take a moment today to talk about Lil and her similarities to Father Bill. We chose to pray to Father Bill, like Lily said, after she was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2019. That put her in 8th grade. So you all were just in 8th grade recently. All through her high school years at Haverford, she has been struggling with brain cancer. Sorry. Inoperable. So this tumor is stuck in her head. Good. Sorry. I appreciate your respect as all of us up here talk about something that's really important to us. Okay, so similarities between Lily and Father Bill, and we've learned more of them as we go along this cancer journey with Lily. Lily has the most patience of anybody that I personally know. I didn't know Father Bill personally, but my father did. And I know a lot of his family. Tara, sitting in the crowd, and her sister Colleen were my friends in high school. So we had a little bond with Father Bill even before Lily was diagnosed. But when we heard he was up for sainthood, we knew that we had to pray to somebody who we had a connection with. But the connection got so much stronger after praying so much to him for a cure for Lily. She is so patient. This girl, as I said, has been suffering with brain cancer. Her voice was taken away. She couldn't talk for a bit. She couldn't walk because of chemotherapy sores that were on her feet. She has no short-term memory. She, can't remember what she had for breakfast today, which is a very difficult side effect of this tumor and the treatment that she has been on. But through it all, this girl smiles and gives love. And I feel like that is so similar to Father Bill. He went through a tragic accident that took a very important part of his life, but he went and was so kind to so many people. This girl is the same. She could sit there and wallow in sadness with her diagnosis, but she doesn't. Those of you in the crowd who know her, some of you do, you always see this girl smiling. And, I think it's just her personality, but I also think a lot of it is Father Bill helping her, showing himself through how Lily handles her situation. And I think it's just wonderful to see the similarities between Lily and Father Bill and how she got to know him so well just from praying the Father Bill prayer. I know you all pray it at 7th period. Is that right? Yeah. There's a line in the prayer that when I read it, I just think of Lily automatically. By carrying the cross of life faithfully, this child has been given a diagnosis of brain cancer, inoperable. And she just goes along with her life, goes along helping kids with special needs, volunteering to coach Special Olympics. She's just one of the best people out there, similar to what I hear about Father Bill. So by carrying the cross of life faithfully, he proclaimed confidence in your love and conformity to your will, and so drew others to you and to the generous gift of your grace. Lily has brought so many people back to prayer, prayer has become more important because of praying for Lily's miracle. We pray every day at 11:15, which is Lily's birthday. So if you guys could join in that little thing that we do, that would be awesome. Last May, during Brain Tumor Awareness Month, the Bonner baseball team came over to our house, and can I just have the Bonner baseball team stand up? The people who were at our house last year? So awesome. So awesome. Stay standing, guys. Is there anybody in this room who is already praying for Lily? Could you stand up? Is there anybody who lives in Havertown and knows of Lily's story? Can you stand up? Is there anybody who has driven around and seen a green light at somebody's front door, showing that people in that house are praying for Lily? Have you seen a green light at people's houses? Can you stand up? Okay. If you want to join with Lily's fight to beat this brain tumor through Father Bill's intercession, you are all in such a holy place because he walked these grounds. If you want to join in Lily's campaign and Lily's fight, can you please stand up? This is what I'm talking about. This is beautiful. Thank you all so much for wanting to support Lily, for getting to know Father Bill, and for helping her get her miracle. And on a count of three, can we say Team Lily? 1, 2, 3. Team Lily! Thank you. You guys can sit.
Thank you so much, students, for joining in Team Lily's fight for the miracle to cure her cancer. I've never met anyone that was more like Father Atkinson than Lily Walker. Just taking things that are hard and difficult and not wondering what you're going to do about it, and see the strength and courage that she has. I'd like to, we're going to end our assembly with a very special guest, an Augustinian friar, just like Father. And from Villanova, this is Father Rob Hagan.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I have to tell you, I go to a lot of high schools. A lot of high schools. This is a special place. You can feel the spirit and the love and the respect in this auditorium. You could go to a lot of schools to learn how to read and write and do math. But what you're getting here is so much more. And you keep your faith. We'll pray for these beautiful people on the stage, Lily and Katie and Anne Marie. We thank God for the inspiration of those who have shared their stories with us. You take that story forward. Take that story forward into your teams, into the locker room, into your families, into the streets where it's difficult out there. Take it with you. Dr. Cook talked about Damar Hamlin. We can learn a lot from that. The times are speaking to us. Life is precious. Life is fragile. It can change like that. What I took out of that Monday night was that brotherhood and sisterhood, black, white, rich, poor, everybody came together and they prayed. They prayed. And I heard it a lot on the stage today, the power of prayer. And that's exactly what Father Bill did. He's one of your brothers. I did not intend becoming a priest. I'll tell you that right now. But a lot of other things I want to do with my life. I met Father Bill through my friends and his family, and he inspired and changed my life because I saw a man who never gave up. He never gave up. And it's Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. You know, thank you. You know, in a lot of cultures, A lot of cultures, people will ring in the new year in a lot of different ways, maybe have a special meal. In some cultures, the new meal for New Year's is pork. Yeah. Because the pig, he's got that big, thick neck, right? And he can't look back. He can't look back. Always look forward. Always look forward. It's so easy, isn't it, to dwell and focus on something that didn't go right in your life? Something in your family, a mistake, a failure, an accident. It's so tempted to get stuck looking back. And when we get stuck looking back, we don't move forward. And that is exactly what Father Bill did in his life. He kept on moving forward. Because of his family, because of his friends, because of people in this school, and because of his faith. Keep your faith. It will help you keep moving forward. Little trivia question. Which team, which professional football team do you think Father Bill rooted for? Jets. Got it. Whoever said that first, get yourself a copy of Green Bananas. And I encourage all of you to take a look at Green Bananas, maybe a book report you have to do for school or in college. It talks about the words and wisdom of Father Bill's life. Put it on your nightstand and be inspired by somebody who never gave up. I think about how I came to school this morning. Woke up, got out of bed, brushed my teeth, got some coffee, got in my car, drove here. Mr. Celadonio said it. Father Bill had to wait for everything. He had to wait for somebody to get him out of bed. He had to wait for somebody to help him brush his teeth. He had to wait for somebody to help him wash up. He had to wait for everything. What are we waiting for? Maybe you're waiting for acceptance into a school next year. Maybe you're waiting for your parents to stop fighting. Maybe you're waiting for a family member to heal from an illness. We can wait the way Father Bill did. He waited with faith. He waited by saying his prayers. And as a result, he had strength. Strength to teach, strength to go to games, strength to live his life, strength to do weddings and baptisms and funerals. He didn't stop living his life. He kept on moving forward. St. Augustine says, do not judge people by what they appear to be, but rather by what they can be. How many people have judged you because they thought you weren't smart enough or you weren't good enough or because you were a particular skin color or because of where you come from or what neighborhood you're in? Don't judge that way. See the way God sees. See the potential. See the possibility, see the goodness that lies underneath. People look at Bill, and a lot of people said, well, that life's over. But his parents didn't see him that way. His family and siblings didn't see him that way. His friends didn't see him that way. Bill himself didn't see himself that way, and God didn't see him that way. They saw goodness, they saw strength, and they saw a priest. And he was the first priest in the history of our church to be ordained as a quadriplegic, the first from your school. As an inspiration to all of us, don't ever give up. And you know, in baseball and football, and Bonner has its own Hall of Fame. Well, the church has a Hall of Fame, and it's called the Communion of Saints. And it's people we hold up as examples of people worthy to imitate. And Father Bill is one of those people. He's designated a servant of God from your school. He is on the ladder to sainthood, and he should be. And the definition of a saint is someone who lives with heroic virtue, patience, prayer, strength, faith. He had it all. And a lot of people said he should have just gave up. And so, yeah, he passed away in 2006, and we're still talking about him. His spirit's still alive. It's in the hearts of these people on stage. It's in the hearts of his family. And it's the heart of this school. And you have it too. You might be waiting for something. You might be impatient. You may have been judged. You might be tempted to give up, and you might be afraid to move forward. Think again. Think again. And so we can pray. We can keep telling his story. We can promote his cause. We can let other people who don't know his story be inspired by his life. Maybe we'll get some more priests. You all could think about priesthood, religious life. You all could think about, how am I going to help somebody? Maybe I'm going to be a teacher. Maybe I'm going to come back and teach at this school. But I'm not going to give up. And I'm not going to dwell on the past. And I'm not going to complain about the little things that you and I are tempted to complain about each day, and move forward and help somebody else. I'm inspired to be with you all. You know, it was said, Mrs. Mullins said, you know, he used to moderate the jug. That's how he wrote his thank you notes. He gets somebody, one of you, to come up and take dictation. That's how he wrote his thank you notes. That's how he wrote poetry. That's how he helped communicate. You helped him do that. Students, right here. Here's one of the poems that he wrote. I would say it's a prayer now. It's called Strength of Others. How'd you do it? People would say. So confining day after day. Having others around for constant care. Ever wonder if life's unfair? How'd you do it? People would ask. Is it better now than in the past? To see others do what you did before, realizing you cannot do them anymore? How'd you do it? People have said. Needing help in and out of bed. Doubts at times, patience, wearing thin. Ever wonder how it will end? How'd you do it day after day? The path taken wasn't my way. The choice was another's, not my own. He sent me help. Couldn't do it alone. How'd I do it? Let me confide. Always with others right at my side. Family and friends from the start gave me love in no small part. How'd I do it day after day? Would not have had it any other way. They shared triumphs and setbacks too. Been blessed when I look back in review. How'd I do it? Let me reply. On those who helped me, I totally relied. They taught me to live, not just to cope. With their love, they gave me hope. How'd I do it? Day after day, help of others all along the way. Valued friends, sisters and brothers. I simply borrowed the strength of others. Keep praying to Bill. Keep praying to your God. He'll help you help others. God bless you.
Bonner and Prendy, I'm so proud of you today for your attention and your deep respect for the messages that these people came up and spoke to you about. I wanted you so much to know Father Atkinson, not just a documentary about his life, but from people who really knew him and cared about him, and from people who pray to him. So thank you so much for your attention. And I want to thank everyone who came up here and spoke. You did a marvelous job in helping our students learn about Father Bill Atkinson. God bless.
Hey, good morning, Bonner and Prendy. On behalf of the administration, we do thank all of you for your attention today. Hopefully you will take the words of everybody that spoke today, take that with you, and build a relationship with God, with Father Bill Atkinson. We have a chapel down the hallway, a beautiful chapel. You know, when you have a chance, stop by, say a prayer, talk to Father Bill. Prayer doesn't have to be just, you know, a rote thing to say. It could just be a conversation. Just talk to him. He loves to hear you. He loves this building. He is here. Talk to him. You may not know him. You may have just learned about him today. He wants to hear from you. So please take with you what we taught you today and pray. That being said, again, thank you to Mrs. Grace Keene for putting this all together today. A round of applause for Mrs. Keene. To the Atkinson family for being here today. Atkinsons. Also friends of Father Bill and our speakers that were up here today. If we give another round of applause. Thank you.